Welcome back to the GTN show. This week, we are discussing all things Olympic Games.
Yeah, like how do people qualify for it and who has qualified it and who still needs to qualify?
Yeah, we're also going to be discussing the start list ahead of the third PTO T100 event in San Francisco.
Plus, all the racing action from a very exciting Ironman 70.3 St. George.
Okay, kicking off with reacts. But before we get into that, I just want to say a big thanks to Steph, Alex, and Ollie, who have stepped in on the GTN channel this past week or two whilst I've been away. Big thanks to them, they've done a sterling job. And also James for manning the ship and doing such a good job, so thank you, mate.
Yeah, welcome back, Mark. I see you managed to find a shirt that didn't have any baby puke on it.
And I'm awake.
Well. Yeah,
just
awake
about.
so far. How many coffees is it? 7 coffees so far today? Yeah. Anyway, congratulations. We haven't actually said it on the channel. Congratulations on the arrival of your little girl.
Thank you. Absolutely stoked.
He's still glowing, buzzing.
Well, first of all, we saw Alistair Brownlee racing this weekend.
In something slightly different. He's tried his hand at a bit of gravel racing over the past couple of years, and he's back at it over in Girona at the Triathlon gravel race, which you may have seen on social media. Quite a few people got stuck into this, including a lot of top cyclists as well. There were 360 kilometre, 200 kilometre, 100 and 50 kilometre options. Alistair opted for the 200 kilometre and seemed like he had a pretty good race. He was in the lead bunch, got a puncture towards the end, I understand, finished in 21st, but looking at the grin, he
looks like he enjoyed himself. Frustratingly though, you read the post, he says one of the reasons he's doing it is because he can't quite run yet. Still injured, which doesn't bode well for the rest of the T100 races. We want to see him back racing triathlons, as much as we enjoy seeing him smiling at the end of a gravel race. Also, Jan Frodeno did that one too.
Hey, nice.
Well, he was supposed to do the 200 with Alistair and decided that he'd rather have coffee break, so he did the 100 the following day instead. No, he was worried he had a bit of a cold, so he didn't want to take the risk. But yeah, maybe he just didn't want to go up against Alistair.
Nice one. Well, some speedy running from Hayden Wild. He has, I think, officially dethroned Alex Yee as the fastest runner in triathlon. So Alex Yee is to hold the fastest 5K time of 13:26. And Hayden Wild has just posted a 13:23 on the track in an elite running race. Yeah, absolutely phenomenal.
Building up to that showdown in Paris in 2024. Yeah, those two going head to head. It's pretty exciting. That is some fast.
In fact, we got a bit of a teaser of that this past weekend in the French Grand Prix race. Yeah, kind of. I mean, so Alex Yee actually won the event. Hayden Wild came home in second. But interestingly, Hayden Wild actually still had a faster run of 13:26 to Alex Yee's 13:29, partly because he got a flat towards the end of the bike, so had a bit of ground to make up on the run.
Yeah, we don't want to see the whole race happen now, Mark, so you had to get that little puncture so we can save it for the Olympic Games. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that is going to be exciting. Neither of those two actually racing WTCS Yokohama, but we'll talk more about that a little bit later on. Speaking of Yokohama though, someone who will be in action, Gwen Jorgensen has posted that she is going to be racing Yokohama. Gwen Jorgensen, if you haven't been following, we've definitely been following it. She's been trying to get qualification for the Olympic Games for the better part of 18 months now since she made her comeback to triathlon. She won Olympic gold in Rio. She then took 7 years off the sport and now is making a comeback trying to get to Paris 2024 and doing a pretty good job of it so far. She's got herself up to rank 24th in the world and the 5th in the US Olympic ranking, but she still has her work cut out for her to qualify for the Olympic Games. And she did post this where she said, "Did you notice my name disappear from the Cagliari start list?" So there's Yokohama this week, 2 weeks later, Cagliari, and those are the last races before the Olympic Games. This was not by choice. I was asked by USAT to race Cagliari and I was in the top 5 USA and the top 25 in the world. USAT has the right to take one person and put them in for a different person called a substitution, and they have the discretion and they used it. If sport is anything, it's unpredictable. Essentially what happened here is Gwen's in Yokohama, she's racing Yokohama. Katie Zaferis was not in Yokohama, and Katie Zaferis hasn't really had a chance to prove herself for the Olympic Games, for selection for that team. So they swapped Gwen out for the Cagliari race to put Katie Zaferis in. And you can kind of go both ways on this. For Gwen, it's obviously a bit of a gut punch by USAT. She's doing everything she can to try and qualify and prove herself. If Yokohama doesn't go really well, they've just taken her second option, second chance away from her. She doesn't have another chance to prove herself. On the flip side, though, Katie Zaferis is one of the best triathletes in the world, also on a comeback trail, also trying to prove herself. And if they didn't swap Gwen out and put Katie in, she would have absolutely no opportunity to prove herself that she's ready for the Olympic Games. So looking at it both ways, I guess USAT has done the best thing possible. Now each have a Olympic distance race where they can prove themselves, but now there's one chance and that's it.
Yeah, I can totally understand both sides of it. It's a tough decision. In fact, Gwen actually goes on to say in another post that this weekend in Yokohama, the first US athlete in the top 3 will secure an Olympic berth. It's not the case for Cagliari, but we'll get onto that a little bit later, and we're going to do a full kind of roundup of Olympic qualification.
Talk about all those ins and outs. But yeah, essentially, Gwen, if she gets top 3 at this one in Yokohama this weekend, she will automatically qualify. The USAT can't even say, actually, no, we're not selecting you. They have to then select her. So the ball is really much in her court.
Yeah, very much so. Well, as I said, on to a bit more on that in a bit. Another post here from Kat Matthews that has got us talking. 8 days of recovery with some exercising for fun, relaxing of what feels like overly precise lifestyle. And now I'm on the build for 2nd of June, Ironman Hamburg, the European champs.
2nd of June is pretty close, isn't it? Like, that's 4 weeks away. And she's doing another Ironman. Obviously, this is the next race in the Pro Series, which she is obviously trying to get as many points as possible for. And for that Pro Series to really have a chance of winning it, you kind of need 3 full Ironmans in there. So squeezing those in before Nice World Champs is pretty difficult. So she has to squeeze it in. And she's decided that this is her best bet at getting those extra points towards the Pro Series. However, 6 days later is the T100 in San Francisco, which she has also committed to. So now she's doing both, and she's going to do a T100 6 days after an Ironman. I mean, if anyone can do it, probably Kat Matthews.
Yeah.
But that is a tall order, and it has got us talking a little bit because we spoke about this at the beginning of the year. The athletes have really tough decisions, and we kind of said at the beginning, you can't do both. You can't do T100 and the Ironman Pro Series. Kat Matthews is clearly setting out to prove us wrong.
Yeah, I mean, she did obviously have the niggle at the start of the year, which had us worrying a bit. Be interested to see how that holds up. But it seems, obviously, with her past performance or recent performance, everything is good.
Well, everything's good right now, yeah. Hopefully it still is towards the end of the year, yeah.
Oh, amazing. Well, also, love this one. From Sky Running Trail Series. Some ninja skills mid-run. So it's Hilary Gerardi stumbled whilst going down this slightly technical downhill section and styled it out with a little roll and back into a run. How cool is that?
Yeah, I like to think I could do that, but far more likely I'm just going to get a graze on my face. I'll be eating dirt rather than doing a stylish somersault. And then one more, a Kona qualifier. That wasn't actually my joke. It was a commenter there, IMX, qualified for it. This is Ironman Australia, which happened this past weekend, and a koala bear crossing the road in the run course.
Light entry, here he goes. Here he goes. Here he goes. Look out. He's got his hop on. Yeah. There he goes.
All right, carrying on with some tri news, and the PTO have announced their Athlete of the Month for April. And no surprise, it was Thomas Rodriguez Hernandez. Did you see his race, Mark, while you were off?
Yeah, that did still get to me through all the baby madness.
Pretty impressive run time there. In fact, I think it's the 5th fastest ever Ironman run time of a 2 hour 34:14, which is really impressive, especially because he was a minute ahead of Patrick Langer, who has quite a few of those other top 5 fastest ever run times. It was a very impressive race day for him, kind of bursting onto the scene, and deserved title of Athlete of the Month by PTO. He actually gets that ahead of Yuri Kulin, who also had a really impressive race, and Ashley Gentoo, who made a comeback to 100 racing with a very impressive win in Singapore.
Did I read, and forgive me again, the baby madness at the moment, this was his debut full Ironman. I believe he did do an Ironman before, but there was a shortened swim or something.
There was no swim, I believe. It was Cosmal. It was a Cosmal, and there was no swim, I believe.
So his debut full Ironman, and he goes and
he ran a 2:38 on that one, but this one was even faster and included a swim and included a very impressive bike time by him too. So yeah, definitely deserving of that Athlete of the Month. Very impressive racing by him. So congratulations to him. More news from the PTO is they've announced the start list for the T100 in San Francisco.
Yeah, much anticipated, although still like a month away because it's 8th of June, isn't it?
It's not the whole start list either, because this is just the contracted athletes who have said they're going to be racing. It doesn't include wild cards, and obviously they can include 4 or 5 wild cards in these fields still, which we'll find out soon, but we don't know them yet.
Yeah, so the women's start list, we've got Ashley Gentle, Taylor Knibb, Anna Haug, Daniela Reif, Laura Phillip, Paula Finley, Emma Pallant-Brown, Kat Matthews, India Lee, Chelsea Sodaro, Imogen Simmons, Lucy Byram, Amelia Watkinson, Marjolaine Pierre, Skye Munch, and Tamara Jewett.
Yep, pretty much all the big names there.
I guess who's missing.
Yeah, it's kind of exciting because no one's really raced the San Francisco T100 before. It's a new event. They've taken over the race there, so I think everyone kind of also wants to go there for the destination. And obviously we also get to the point now where a few of these ladies have missed Singapore or Miami, and you can only miss 2 of the whole series. So they're running out of races to miss. Yeah, on the men's, Sam Long, Magnus Ditlev, Jason West, Peter Hemmerich, Matthias Megera, Rudy von Berg, David McNamee, Alistair Brownlee, Clement Mignon, Frederick Funk, Bradley Weiss, Aaron Royal, Ben Knut, Rico Bogan, Martin Van Riel, and we're excited to see Javier Gomez is coming back, which is, really exciting to see him racing the T100. We haven't seen him race one of those yet. Also, not on that list yet, and technically a wild card, but also apparently not a wild card anymore. Singapore winner Yuri Kulin, because apparently he's been given a contract for the rest of the series, so he will be at all of them. He doesn't need to get a wild card slot for each one. We can pretty much guarantee he'll be at the rest of them, which is exciting. Well, I think deserved.
Yeah, well, stay tuned, because obviously the other wildcard slots will be announcing very soon.
Now it's time for What the Tech, and just a quick one this time. Wahoo Kicker Run, remember that one?
Oh yeah.
Pretty exciting treadmill coming. All new features that we've never seen before in treadmills, such as automatically changing your pace. So you just run towards the front of the treadmill, it'll get faster before you hit the front of the treadmill, apparently. We haven't actually tried this, but apparently it works. And if you slow down, you won't just get spat out the back of the treadmill will slow down as you move backwards, which is pretty cool. Anyway, we're looking forward to trying it. You can pre-order yours now for the cool price of $500.
Okay.
That's $500 just a deposit to get you on the order list. The actual treadmill costs $4,999, and they're expecting to roll those out in autumn this year, so autumn 2024. And they've also said that it comes with a white glove service, which means men in white gloves will come and install it in your house where you want it, make sure it's all set up and working perfectly. Although that's not included in the cost. You have to pay another $300 for that. But you can't say no to that. You have to include that in your shipment. You're not allowed to install it yourself.
I'm excited to give this one a go, because also I hear it's got some sort of like, doesn't it sort of laterally move as well? And then it automatically changes
You can load a course, I believe, and it can automatically change the incline when you go uphill and downhill. Yeah, it sounds like a pretty cool treadmill. All the bells and whistles. Can't wait to get our hands on one, or our feet on one, as the case may be.
And now for the race news. We had some really speedy racing in St George this weekend. This is the 3rd race of the Ironman Pro series and the second 70.3 in that series. So in the women's race, it was Kate Curran that led the swim out, and she was closely folled by Jenny Metzler and Paula Finley, with Ellie Salthouse around 10 seconds back. Then Paula quickly pushed the pace on the bike. Ellie Salthouse attempted to go with, in the process, dropping Jenny and Kate. And then Paula's gap was initially around a minute to Ellie Salthouse by around the halfway mark, but that absolutely ballooned out by the time she got to T2 to around 4 minutes. Now, Ellie Salthouse actually did start to rein her in a little bit and actually caught her by a little over a minute on the run, but that was nowhere near enough. Paula cruised to the win, Ellie Salthouse in second, and Jackie Herring in third. Interestingly, Danielle Lewis was racing this weekend. Okay, she wasn't in the top 3, but she has raced Texas and also
Oceanside.
So she's raced all of the Ironman Pro Series events, and notably, Texas was only last weekend. So that, whilst she hasn't placed in the top 3, she's been in the top 10 for all of those, which puts her at the top of the Ironman Pro Series.
Well, yeah, but that's because she's the only person who's done three points scoring races. I mean, that would be good if every race that you scored points that counted all the way through the series, and she did all 18 of the series races. She'd be well up there at the end of it. However, only your top, I think, 5 count.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when other people...
If only there was a bonus for
doing the most. Yeah, the extra 1,000 points or something for doing. Yeah.
Also, and interestingly, Paula Findlay is now in the top 10 Ironman Pro Series ranking or standings, and she's the only one not to have an Ironman result to her name. So it's just 70.3 results, which obviously there's a big difference in points.
Then you look at her standings, and then you go, well, at the end of the year, she'll probably still not have a full Ironman to her name. And
well, you never know.
Well, yeah. I shouldn't write. Yeah, she's a 70.3 specialist, but on the men's side, also a 70.3 specialist, Sam Long, definitely stuck it to the rest of the field. He came up the swim about 3 minutes down, but then did what Sam Long does and went to town on the bike, caught up to everybody, had said he was going to sit in with the group and then do a really strong run, but he didn't do that. He did what Sam Long does, and he went blowing straight past them. Only Maximilian Spurl went with him, and then got it to the run and proceeded to run a 1:10 on a very tough course, which is very impressive. We won't talk about records because it was a slightly different course to previously, but sub 2 hour bike split followed by a 1:10 off the bike meant that Sam Long won by over 8 minutes, which is, I mean, winning the North American 70.3 champs by over 8 minutes. He is the in-form athlete at the moment. Ben Hamilton was second with Anthony Costes in third. And talking about the rankings, that means Sam has jumped up 19 places in the rankings to 6th overall in the standings. Like Paula, also not having done a full. But with all the T100s on his calendar, like Paula, he might also get to the end of the year and not have many fulls. Patrick Langer is at the top of that list, and obviously having done second at Texas, he's definitely looking better as far as...
It's interesting at this point, isn't it? Because obviously you can look at the stands and go, get really excited, but as you say, so much can happen.
Yeah, until we're 6 or 7 races in and people start having races that don't count because they're too low, then it's not really relevant. But it is going to get exciting towards the end of the year.
Well, over in Ironman Australia this weekend, on the women's side, it was won by Regan Holyhow. Is that how we say her name?
Hollyoak.
Regan Hollyoak. Sorry. Radhika Cardafelt in second and Kate Gillespie-Jones in third.
And on the men's side, Sam Appleton took his first ever Ironman win, very impressively, just under the 8 hour mark too, a new record on that course. I think it's been going for 38 years. And that's the first time anyone's been under 8 hours. So 7 hours, 57, 32.
It's his first Ironman win as well.
It is his first Ironman win. Wow. Yeah. Hard to believe it's Sam.
He's
been around forever, but won a lot of 70.3.
Fair play. I mean, that must have been a massive...
And home soil too, like literally his hometown. It's pretty cool. Yeah, Mike Phillips in second with Benjamin Hill in third.
Nice. Well, coming up this weekend, we have got another of the Ironman Pro Series races, 70.3 Mallorca, and Gustav Eden is on the start list.
Yeah, pretty excited about this. He announced this a couple of weeks ago. At the same time, he announced that he had bought a new house. I don't know why those were in the same post, but they were. He has, going to be on the start list, shifted his attention from the Olympic Games to the Pro Series, or at least middle distance and long distance racing again, and really excited to see what kind of form he's in.
Yeah, and also going up against the likes of Yuri Kulin, Mathis Margier. So
it's a stacked field.
On the women's side, also Laura Phillip, Emma Pallant-Brown, Sarah Svensk, various other athletes. So it's going to be exciting. It's a great course as well. So I'll definitely be trying to tune into that one.
Good one. Also, what we'll be tuning into, although it's really early in the morning for us. I think the women started like 2:15 a.m. Yeah, and the men at 5 a.m.
I have got a baby now, so...
you might be awake, exactly. I'll almost certainly be awake for the second half of the men's one, even if it starts at 5 a.m. But we'll be watching WTCS Yokohama, and this is pretty exciting. As we were saying earlier, it is Olympic qualifying. It's the final countdown now. 27th of May is the final cutoff for all teams selected for the Olympic Games for qualification. So these two races, this one Yokohama and then Cagliari, are where it all comes down to for these teams. And it is it was really exciting.
And Flora Duffy's back.
She is, yeah, and Christian Blumenfeld's back too. Previous Olympic gold medalists are both back. We have no idea what kind of form either of them are in, so we're really excited to see.
Yeah, now as James alluded to, it is absolutely coming to crunch time for this Olympic qualification. And if I'm honest, it's really difficult to get your head around how the Olympic qualification works, because also it's different for every nation. They all have different criteria. So we're going to try and break it down for you here and pick out some of the notable athletes and kind of battles that are happening. So starting at the top, so you have your World Triathlon Championship Series events. They get the most points as an athlete when you're racing at those events. Then it drops down to the World Cup races where you get slightly less points. And then you start to go to the Continental Cup races and you get even less points there. Now, most nations will pick certain events and criteria for the athletes to race, and then they'll pick and qualify those athletes from, and they're normally the WTCS event. So the athletes have then got to get enough points and get their ranking up to get into those WTCS events, which is what we saw the likes of Gwen Jorgensen doing this past year or so. She needs to get enough points to get herself up in the US ranking and a world triathlon ranking so that she could then actually even get into these WTCS events. And then we then can start on.
But more than that, those points which you can't actually qualify by getting the most points at all those races, the various tiers of points, but you can qualify your country a spot for the Olympic Games using those points. So if your country has 3 athletes in the top 50, they will get a 3rd spot for the women or for the men, as the case may be. If you only have 2 athletes who got enough points to be in the top 50, then you'll probably only get 2 spots for the men for your Olympic. Even not necessarily that those 2 men who are in the top 50 will be the ones selected, but they will qualify the spot. So it does get quite complicated. First you race to get your country enough spots for the Olympic Games, and hopefully you get 3 men and 3 women spots. And then you race to qualify yourself for one of those spots that you've earned for your country, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it is very complicated. And as you say, each nation has their own criteria. So they pick events, they set a standard or a result that they require from those athletes. And I'll be honest, some of them are really, really tough. Yeah. So starting off with France, and they've actually got 2 athletes kind of pre-qualified, kind of. One of which is Dorian Connings, the world champion, and also Cassandra Beaugrand.
Yeah, and Pierre Lecourt is also pre-qualified. Now, they actually have to validate their pre-qualification to prove their fitness in this season, because obviously if they qualified in 2023, there might be in absolutely no form whatsoever this year. So technically those 3 could get taken out of the France team if they don't perform at either of these events. I don't think that's going to happen, but technically they could.
That's very weird, isn't it?
Yeah, well, essentially it all comes down... What the countries generally do is they put really, really stringent automatic qualifier standards, like you have to win or you have to podium to automatically qualify, because they would rather, at the end of May, look at their teams and look at the athletes and look at their form and make discretionary picks on who's actually in form. So they kind of make it really hard to automatically qualify. So these ones have automatically qualified, but there's still a loophole in there where if they're out of form, they can be subbed out for someone else. And a few of the countries have done this, so it's quite interesting. But the French team now gets really interesting because they've got those 2 men pre-qualified. They've got Dorian Connings and Pierre Lecourt already pretty much pre-qualified. But you've still got Vincent Louis, who is trying to get in there, and Leo Berger. And both of those guys we want to see racing in Paris. But one of them we're not going to see racing. So they have to perform now at Yokohama to prove that they should be the one. So those 2 are very much a race within a race between those 2 at this Yokohama race.
I mean, the French performances of late are absolutely phenomenal, but who'd have thought we would be debating whether Vincent Louis would be on the start list for the Olympic Games? I really just, to me, he was a given, but my goodness, the standard
career-defining home Olympic Games for those French athletes. So yeah, everything on the line. Then there's the USA. So as we said earlier, that you have to qualify enough spots. The USA men's team haven't. So they've only got 2 men's spots that they've qualified for their team. One of those goes to Morgan Pearson because he did well in the test event last year. So he's already in. But now they've got Matt McElroy, Seth Ryder, Kevin McDowell, and Dare Smith all competing for that one other spot. And then that person also has to race the mixed relay for them. So it's not just selecting someone who might perform in the individual. The selectors are also going to look at whether they can perform in the mixed relay in a much shorter event. So it does get quite complicated.
Yeah. And we've seen this in the past where the athlete you might have expected to be chosen hasn't been chosen, all because of this mixed team relay.
Yeah, because they're back in the mixed team
Onto the women's, they have got actually 3 spots up for grabs, one of which is already Taylor Knibb has taken. She is qualified for. But then you've got Summer Rappaport, you've got Taylor Spivey, Kirsten Kasper, Gwen Jorgensen, maybe Katie Severas. Yeah, it's hot.
Yeah, and if you go just on rankings on points, it should be fairly easy. Taylor Spivey is ranked 4th, I think. Summer Rappaport's right up there. She's in 15th. So you would think that those would be the next ones. But actually, Gwen Jorgensen's on quite a lot of form. She's moving up. There's also Kirsten Kasper doing really well at some of the races. So they've got to decide. And as Mark said earlier, if Gwen gets, or any of those ladies get a top 3 at Yokohama, and they are the first American across the line, it's important to put that point in there, because if Gwen Jorgensen gets on the podium but Kirsten Kasper finishes 2nd, Gwen Jorgensen still doesn't get the spot. But the first American over the line in the podium will get an automatic qualifier, and that is the final automatic qualifier opportunity. Thereafter, it is 100% on discretion of the USA selection committee. So, yeah. Fingers crossed for them.
All right, well, on to Great Britain. And Alex Yee and Beth Potter are already pre-qualified. On the men's side, they actually haven't achieved that 3rd spot. So there's only one other
Same as the American team.
Grabs, whereas for the women, they have managed to get 3 spots. So we've got Johnny Brownlee battling for a spot. Who would have thought, again, Johnny Brownlee battling for a spot at the Olympic Games with the likes of Hugo Milner, Max Stapley.
They're fighting for that 1 second spot. And again, you look at it and you go, well, which of those 3 is going to perform best in the individual? But also, that second athlete has to perform in the mixed relay.
And Johnny Brownlee has done incredibly well in the mixed relays. He's shown some real form, although not...
But lately he has not been in good form at all, whereas Hugo Milner has been in really good form, particularly on the run. And Max Stapley won a World Cup last weekend. So, yeah, I wouldn't want to be in the selector's shoes. On the women's side, it's even worse. You kind of want that 3rd spot for the men to just be shifted over to have 4 women, because there is one British woman who is going to be very, very disappointed when they do finally hand out these spots. Beth Potter is already in, but Kate Wall, Sophie Caldwell, and Georgia Taylor-Brown are all fighting for 2 spots. And they have to prove themselves now at either Yokohama would be good to prove themselves, but British Triathlon have actually said that Cagliari is their final opportunity, and they put in a lot of weight on that event. They're basically saying, this is the one we want you to focus on. If you can prove you can perform on a big day, then we will select you. And there's actually a precedent to this, because for Rio 2016, Jodie Stimpson was on amazing form. She was doing really well, and she had won a few races, etc. And she was kind of like, well, yeah, you're going to be in. But we have said that on this final WTCS race, if you do really well, we will select you. And Helen Jenkins came in and did really well. And Jodie Stimpson was knocked out, and Helen Jenkins was put in because Helen Jenkins did really well on that final race, the 1 chance. So essentially, any one of those ladies could do really well in Cagliari and knock the other ones out of contention. It's all to play for.
And I mean, there are so many more nations to cover, but one in particular, or a final one to cover, Australia. So Matt House has already pre-qualified for the men, but the women have got their work cut out. They are guaranteed 2 spots for Paris, one of which looks like it is kind of sewn up, and that is Sophie Lynn with her win at the World Cup in Napier. But then we've also got Tokyo Olympian Jazz Hedgeland, Charlotte McShane, Natalie van der Kurden, also all kind of battling for this final spot. So.
Yeah, no one hit that automatic qualifier standard for Australia, so it's all discretionary, which, as we've seen in the past, opens up all kinds of controversy. But yeah, end of the month, we're going to know everyone who's racing in Paris. And before then, there's 2 very exciting races coming up. Say what?
All right.
It's good to have you back, Mark. Our guest didn't do that as well.
It's good. Well, as I mentioned, thanks ever so much to Alex, Ollie, and Steph for stepping in whilst I was away. It seems like you guys enjoyed them being on the show, so yeah, really cool. And regardless of me being back, I think we just keep them coming on in. Because it's great to have them.
I agree. I'll take next week off. Someone else.
But yeah, a couple of you got in touch or commented under the videos, in particular under Ollie's Coach's Corner, which he kindly stepped in to do whilst James was travelling the world, South Africa, Germany, filming all sorts for us. Steph Janssen said, highly confused about this one. I'm guessing... Why
his answers or that he was there? Hopefully it wasn't his answers.
And Disco Stew 1970 said, wow, Ollie is more knowledgeable, a more knowledgeable GTN's Coach's Corner presenter than Mark or James.
Oh.
Oi.
Oi.
I can't really argue with that. He is a doctor after all, isn't he?
Well, I can, because I scripted his answers.
Well, yeah, I was going to say. And also, we may have tailored the questions a little bit to his wheelhouse.
And also, there was another question in there, which was more running related, that he just deleted and didn't answer.
I think James... What we need to do is put him back in his place, and we'll do another Coach's Corner for him. We'll script it for him, but it's just swim and run questions.
Yeah, just swim and run questions. I agree. Yeah.
No, all jokes aside, thanks, Ollie. Absolutely awesome, and I'm glad you guys enjoyed him coming on and all the others. So yeah, we'll keep them coming in.
Yeah, coming up on the channel this week, we have a very interesting learn to swim video, and this is pretty cool because we've taken someone, a friend of Mark's, who absolutely cannot swim. I mean, like.
Terrifying.
Not like a triathlete says, oh, I really can't swim. I mean, like, he can't put his face in the water. Yeah. And the breakthroughs he makes in this video are quite phenomenal. It's almost tear-jerking.
Well, and like, actually, I feel like I'm welling up just thinking, 56% of the world's population cannot swim. Did you know that? And Harry is one of them. And yeah, he really wanted to overcome that. It's something we've been talking about for years. Yeah. And we finally made it happen. We're actually it's still ongoing. So it's going to be a little bit of a series, but tune in, that is coming later this week. But also, James may have spoken about this already, you went and trained with Daniela Reef.
I did. All the way in South Africa. Yeah.
She put you through paces.
She definitely did. In fact, she broke me a little bit because I come back a little bit crook. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and we got some pretty good training in. And yeah, she definitely put me through my paces.
Well, you can check that video out. It's on the channel already. And yeah, go give it a like. For James's sake, because I think he's still hurting a little bit.
Very good conversation with Daniela though. So if you're just interested in her and you don't actually not interested in seeing me suffering, you can still go and watch that video. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week.